Hello Ice and Fire Nerds, this is Chris, and this is going to continue our Game of Thrones Foreshadowing series. Although technically everything mentioned won't be foreshadowing, it'll be a lot of parallel moments and some general hints as well. But I appreciate the feedback so far, you guys seem to be enjoying this, so let's pick up where we left off from Season 1, Episode 2, The King's Road. Alright, so let's jump right in. In our first scene, we have Dany and Jorah riding along with the Khalasar now that she's newly married to Khal Drogo, and Jorah tells Dany this.
The Shadowlands beyond the Shy, they say there are fields of ghost grass with stalks as pale as milk that glow in the night. Mud is all other grass. That's the way the world will end.
So that's a pretty interesting description. I think obviously it pays homage to this. So yes, this is a reference to the real threat, and specifically here, Jorah says ghost grass, which I think, you have Walking Dead essentially up north in Westeros, and he describes them tall and pale as milk, and obviously that's the color of ice. So the Walking Dead ice zombies that glow in the night, and I'm sure that refers to their blue eyes that glow in the night. But this also kind of shows you all the prophecies as far as this story goes, how they come from the Essos in the east as well as the west, the last hero, Azor Ahai, Prince that was promised, etc. Not to mention the stallion that mounts the world and how they all tie together, but essentially all the same story from several different cultures. So it's really interesting that Jorah mentions this to Dany right at the beginning of the series, but eventually her fate will intertwine with the actual end of the world. And in our next scene, we have Tyrion and Joffrey and the Hound standing here after Tyrion wakes up from the kennels, and we see Tyrion give Joffrey a little tough love.
Do you understand?
You can't.
The prince will remember that, little lord.
I hope so.
So I think this definitely points to the fact that once Joffrey does become king, he does give his uncle Tyrion quite a hard time.
Surely there are others out there who still dare to challenge my reign? Uncle, how about you? I'm sure they have a spare costume.
And everybody else he comes across. So I think you can point to a multitude of scenes here where basically Joffrey makes Tyrion's life a living hell. And in our next scene, we have Tyrion enjoying a breakfast with his family. We have Jaime and Cersei sitting here.
Is Bran going to die?
Apparently not.
And the first thing I noticed was that Myrcella is the one who asked about Bran. So this certainly could give us a hint there's going to be issues down the road with Myrcella herself, because anybody in that room could have asked, specifically Jaime or Cersei themselves, since they're the ones that kind of want Bran to die. To keep their little twin cest secret. And then during the same scene, we have Tyrion and Jaime having a little discussion.
Well, even if the boy lives, he'll be a cripple, grotesque. Give me a good, clean death any day.
So basically, Jaime tells Tyrion he'd rather have a good, clean death than becoming a cripple, and of course, this lets us know directly that...
Yeah, this should help you remember.
Yep, that Jaime's going to become a damn cripple. And in our next scene, we actually have Cersei coming in to see Catelyn as she sits beside Bran, and she seems to show actual humanity here.
I pray to the mother every morning and night that she return your child to you. Perhaps this time she'll listen.
Now during this scene when she's telling Catelyn about her first child and losing it, now for you show-only watchers in the book, she apparently never had that child due to moon tea. But the point being here that during this scene, it really focuses on Catelyn and her little religious rees here as far as the faith of the seven. Cersei even says, I pray to the mother that you bring your child back to you. And I think this is kind of setting up the idea that they have the wrong religion here, because Bran is obviously associated with the old gods, and the old gods being Bloodraven and the Green Seers. And there's actually various other scenes when Catelyn is sitting beside Bran's bed, and you can see her focusing on the dolls that she's making for these rees, and she follows the faith of the seven, being a Tully from the south as opposed to the old gods of the north. So again, I think this is kind of letting us know that Bran's going to be a part of something bigger, and it's definitely not going to be this religion. He's going to become essentially an old god, since I believe that the old gods are in fact Green Seers themselves. And not to mention they keep playing that damn mystical music every time they show these scenes with Bran in a coma. And next we have a scene here with Jaime and Jon in the yard at Winterfell as Jon has Needle made for Arya.
Let me thank you ahead of time, guarding us all from the perils beyond the wall, wildlings and white walkers and whatnot. I'm grateful.
Now, of course, Jamie is just being an asshole here since he was an asshole in the first few seasons, but the point being here, he was kind of just goading John and trying to piss him off as far as him actually thanking him for joining the Night's Watch. Essentially, he was making fun of it, but if you notice here, they showed him shaking his hand and they actually zoomed in and showed a close-up shot of the handshake being Jamie's right hand, but it's also John's right hand that they're focusing on as well, and for Jamie, we see this. And then later on at the wall with John, we see this. So I wouldn't say that Jamie losing his hand and John burning his hand is anything significant as far as the hands themselves. I think it just kind of represents the change that they're going to go through in future seasons. Because Jamie is essentially going to become the very thing he seems to despise when he talks to Tyrion at breakfast. John burns his hand to remind us of fire as he saves Lord Commander Mormont from the White. And last but not least, in our first video for episode 2 of season 1, we have the little scene with John and Arya.
I won't hack a man's head off, but it can poke him full of holes if you're quick enough.
I can be quick.
You'll have to work at it every day. First lesson, sticking with the pointy end.
I know which end to use.
There's quite a bit going on here. You know, we're seeing John and Arya, how close they really are. And this also continues the theme from episode 1 about Arya becoming a warrior as opposed to Bran as far as a physical warrior that can wield a sword. But I think it also kind of marks the beginning of this. So she definitely sticks him with the pointy end, gets her first kill, and I think this is her first step heading towards the dark side to become a faceless man and a natural born killer. Alright guys, that'll do it for this episode. Let me know anything I missed in the comments. I'm sure there are a few things I missed and a few things I left out. And also let me know if any of the scenes I did mention actually point to other things as well. Also, a special shout out to my Smokescreen Patreon executive producers, Kisa Powell, Volguy10, and Lala Gig. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to get everything, and be sure to click that notification button to make sure you're notified when a new video drops, and I'll be dropping them damn near daily. So thanks again, you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.